Ladies and gentlemen, to grace this event, we have BPDA Director General Muhajirin Ali, Chairperson of Bangsamoro Private Sector Committee, BBC President Attorney Ronald Halid Torres, Vice Chair, and other BPSC officials, MOST, MSSD, MTIT, NDU Cotabato, CBCS, TLAC. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all witness the grand ribbon cutting ceremony in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Requesting everyone to please rise for the invocation to be led by Mr. 𝗍𝗱 𝗕𝗍 for Muslim prayer, Mr. Joel Roma Cadilena for Christian prayer, and Mr. John Mudakef, Cultural Master from the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. Please remain standing for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem and the Bangsamoro hymn, to be led by the Cotabato City Central Pilot Elementary School choir pupils.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك اللهم لك الحمد بالإيمان ولك الحمد بالقرآن اللهم ارزقنا التوفيق في أعمالنا واجعله خالصة لوجهك الكريم اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا رب زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما واسعا وعملا صالحا اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم اللهم يسر أمورنا وبارك جهودنا واجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك الكريم وبلغنا من الخير ما نرجوه ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of God that we say in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, source of wisdom, peace, and unity, we gather before you with grateful hearts as we commence the 3rd Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao Private Sector Organization Summit. We thank you for guiding the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, the Ministry of Trade, Investment, and Tourism, and the Bangsamoro Private Sector Committee under the Bangsamoro Economic Development Council in organizing this important gathering. Lord, we also lift to you our esteemed Bangsamoro leaders, especially the Honorable Chief Minister 𝗕𝗿𝗏 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗏, whose vision, dedication, and commitment continue to pave the way toward a stronger, more resilient, and more inclusive Bangsamoro. Bless him and all our government servants with your guidance, protection, and clarity of purpose. As we reflect on this year's theme, strengthening the humanitarian development peace HDP nexus in BARM, we ask you to fill this summit with the Holy Spirit. Inspire us, O Lord, to build bridges of cooperation between the public and private sectors, to pursue governance that uplifts every community, and to nurture investments and innovations that honor human dignity and promote lasting peace in Bangsamoro region. Almighty God, may the objectives of this gathering to enhance the role of the private sector, strengthen the innovation ecosystem, and reinforce multi-sector partnerships be achieved through your grace. We entrust this entire event into your loving hands. May everything we do bring honor to your name and bring hope, progress, and unity to all Bangsamoro communities. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Mundoy Tom, Barakatan Tulus, BMA 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗏 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗏 𝗕𝗏𝗏 Tanawagam Flindagan. Ay nigay do nga arnawan kasila labi-labi na ibigay IP maging adabang sa Morwin. Da pangkatay keluhanay magukuli. Ongot kay DBM abay tulus. Labi-labi na idependiaga mo talaki pinga sabangan. Ladon, taganon daligdigan, taman, pasukul, flindagan. Sa manandayo lulus, maak tanda kanulay, ifruk noyem riyang, momo, gumba, meriang. Ganat sa bangal, taman, walaw gabangal. Talaki. Demiyaga bigay. Pendiaga minanga. Pendiaga sabut. Pendiaga bigay kilawan. Muit baswalae. Menantang gitoon, menawal klungonon. Talaki, be may demiyaga braro gaya kilawan, dabrotori pantade gono kay damnalas. Ungka mo ni kulayani, pagamba mo, mangay, dab kasarigay tuluse, min tulala ayunon. Mentulala ayunon, diriyam mabay piyo. Ikluhanay ni menlimud. Inok masuati bay tuluso, bakagay ula-ula, lang niya muyagay, 𝗕𝗏𝗃 𝗦𝗂𝗃 Abay tulus, poror rambegay kluhanan, katinan, kasapagayon, kasatabang, non, ikagay pangiluyan, anda marayugay, dab kaame adapan. Non bem say tintu taganon bunbunan, toyo non baka, tang paday makatapuwe, bemi manangatas manangako manamintad, babtegig lawan, makatpu tulus.
You may now all be seated. This is Bangsamoro, a region moving forward, shaped by people who continue to build, create, and serve with purpose. Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao stands on progress made through cooperation and trust. Communities are growing. Ideas are turning into opportunities. This is pride in what we do and hope in what we continue to build. The barn brings the story to one place. It celebrates our work, our culture, and our shared commitment to a stronger region. Here, we see how far we come and promise that is already taken shape today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the third Barn Private Sector Organization Summit 2025.
Once again, welcome to the third BARM Private Sector Summit 2025. To the BARM officials, visitors, guests, private sector organizations, welcome and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
To officially open our summit, let's give a warm round of applause to the Bangsamoro Director General of the BPDA, Engineer Muhajirin T. Ali, MNSA.
A'udzubillahi minasyaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My utmost courtesy po, respect to our officials and guests who are present in today's event. Kay ating Chief Minister 𝗕𝗿𝗏 𝗕𝗃𝗁, which is being represented by Muhammad Asnin Pendatun, our Cabinet Secretary. Sa ating Mayor, Muhammad Ali Bruce Matamalo, being represented by Attorney Maleha Dumama, Mitimbang, our city administrator, sa aking kaibigan po sa Minda, sir, kay Deputy Executive Director Romeo Montenegro and his colleagues, ang ating Deputy Executive Director po ng PPP Center, kay Mr. Elizar Recote, sir. Kay BBC President Attorney Ronald Halid Torres, our very own Vice Chairman of BPSC, and all the members of the BPSC, National Innovation Council Cabinet Member Mark Sultan Jersava, CEO of Bambuhay, to our resource speakers and plenary panelists, Mr. Aljo Quintans of UNDP, Country Representative Teddy Monroy of UNIDO, aking kaibigan, sir, Mr. Mark Samante of Ateneo de Davao University, Mr. Roel Ian Blanker of Mahinta Foundation Incorporated of Dole, Philippines, our partners from academic institutions, civil society organizations, small and medium enterprises, SMSE, cooperatives, business chambers and industry sectors, officials, and representatives from our BMOAs, colleagues in BPDA, ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Today, we gather not merely to convene but to converge with a shared purpose and a collective vision. This annual gathering, pangatlo na po ito, marks another milestone to build a Bangsamoro that is resilient, inclusive, and driven by innovations. It is a moment to deepen collaboration and strengthen the network among government, business sector, academe, civil society, organizations to preserve the gains of peace and unlock the full potential of our region, the BARM. The theme of today's third PSO Summit, the role of the private sector in strengthening the humanitarian development, peace nexus, and advancing regional economic integration in BARM, is more than a slogan, it is a call into action. It reminds us that peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the very foundation of good governance and inclusive development. Progress is not about preserving the status quo, it is about transformation, a continuous journey of learning, nurturing, and growth. The HDP Climate and Conflict Nexus refers to the interconnections and mutual reinforcement between humanitarian, development, and peace-building actions. This summit serves as a vital platform for multi-stakeholders dialogue, championing participatory planning and recommending context-specific policies for the socio-economic development of BARM. It supports the overarching goal of our second BDP, 2023 to 2028, in building an empowered, cohesive, and progressive Bangsamoro. We affirm our commitment to an all-out or all-of-society approach where the private sector is not merely an economic actor but a strategic partner in shaping evidence-based policies, advancing sustainable development, and sustaining the momentum of peace. More importantly, it stands as a catalyst for innovation and resource of inspiration within our communities. In addition, together with the Ministry of Trade, Investment, and Tourism, MTIT, as chairperson of BPSC Thematic 3, business and industry sector will launch the first BARM Innovation Summit. This is aligned with the approved Bangsamoro Private Sector Committee Resolution Number 4, Series of 2025, approving and adapting convergence framework through innovation strategy. In closing, let this summit be a space for innovative ideas, meaningful dialogue, and actionable solution where innovation becomes the bridge that connects vision to reality. Again, pagpalain Bangsamoro, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat, sa inyong pagdalo. Magandang umaga po. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Pagpalain Bangsamoro. Shukran, Bangsamoro Director General Muhajirin 𝗕𝗏𝗏. Let us now hear a welcome message from our Honorable Mayor Bruce Matabalao, to be represented by Attorney Mahalea Dumama Mitimbang, PhD, the City Administrator of Cotabato City.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. To our esteemed partners from the BARM ministries and line agencies, our respected local government officials, department heads and representatives from various offices, our community leaders and stakeholders present today, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day to all. On behalf of our Honorable Mayor Muhammad Ali Bruce Matabalao, our Vice Mayor Joher Madag, and the members of the 18th Sangguniang Panglungsod, we would like to welcome you all to the 3rd BARM Private Sector Organization Summit 2025. Welcome to Cotabato City, the crown jewel of BARM. Allow me to read the message of our Mayor para sa lahat. And I quote, "Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. I extend the warm greetings of the Cotabateños and the Administrasyong para sa lahat to the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, to our partners in the private sector, and to everyone who continues to work for progress and peace in our region. Today's summit carries a very meaningful theme: the role of private sectors strengthening the humanitarian development peace nexus in BARM. It reminds us that peace and progress must always work together. When the private sector and government share one direction, the benefits reach every household and every ordinary worker in the Bangsamoro. In Cotabato City, we continue to nurture an environment where businesses can thrive. From January to October this year, the city recorded around 10,800 business renewals and registrations. This generated 223 million in local business tax revenues. These are not just numbers on paper. They represent the dedication of thousands of Cotabateños, entrepreneurs who continue to build their dreams in our city. We have also implemented the automated business permitting and licensing system, which allows business applications to be processed within a single working day. This system has restored confidence among business owners and encouraged new investors to come in. Through our economic enterprise program, collections have reached 21.7 million this year from our mega market, city arcade, and slaughterhouse operations. These funds return to the people through programs and services that improve market facilities and promote livelihood. For 2026, the city government has allocated 1.5 billion worth of projects that support commerce and mobility, including bridges, road networks, and new public facilities. Every project is meant to create opportunities for business employment and access. We deeply appreciate the partnership of the Bangsamoro government through the BPDA. Their leadership brings together government institutions, civil society, and the private sector toward one goal: sustainable peace and inclusive development for the Bangsamoro region. True progress is measured by how far it reaches the ordinary citizen. Every policy, every investment, and every innovation must uplift the lives of families who depend on small enterprises and daily income. Cotabato City remains committed to building trust and collaboration with the private sector. We believe that progress happens when government listens, when business participates, and when every Cotabateño takes part in building our shared future. To BPDA and our private sector partners, thank you for choosing Cotabato City as the venue for this important event. Together, let us continue strengthening our local economy, guided by unity, discipline, and compassion. Para sa lahat, aksyon ang solusyon. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. End of quote.
Thank you, Dr. Mitimbang, representing the City Mayor of Cotabato City. We are honored to hear from the Chief Minister of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Honorable Abdul-Rauf Makakuwa, represented by Muhammad Asnin Pendatun, our Cabinet Secretary.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. This morning I am here to represent and read on behalf of the Chief Minister his message of support and at the same time the keynote address for this important event. But before I do so, allow me to give my utmost respect and courtesy to the Director General of the Bangsamoro Planning Development Authority, Engineer Muhajirin Ali, to our host LGU, represented by our City Administrator, Attorney 𝗍𝗂𝗕𝗓 𝗕𝗂𝗇𝒻𝒛g, and of course to our Provincial Government of Maguindanao del Norte, headed by Governor Dato Tucao Mastura, to our President in the BPSCS, Attorney Ronald Torres, to our partner, friend from the national government, ASEC Romeo Montenegro, the Deputy Executive Director of MINDA, and the rest of the MINDA family in attendance this morning. To our Deputy Executive Director of the PPP Center in Manila, Mr. 𝗕𝗿𝗓 𝗕𝗏𝗓, sir, thank you for joining us. And to our pool of experts this morning, mention one in particular, Mr. 𝗍𝗿𝗃 𝗕𝗏𝗄, who is a fellow Chevening alumni and a fellow graduate of the University of Manchester, and of course to the rest of the pool of experts this morning. To our partner also in the development work in the Bangsamoro, the Executive Director of BDA, ED Rajni Talim. Good to see you again, brother. And to my fellow public and civil servants from the Bangsamoro government. And of course, most importantly, to our private sector partners in attendance. Isang maganda at mapayapang umaga po sa ating lahat. At this point, allow me to read the keynote address of the Honorable Chief Minister 𝗍𝗏𝗄𝗏 𝗕𝗏𝗂𝗏. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Director General Engineer Muhajirin Ali, to our valued partners from the private sector, academia, civil society, our industry collaborators, the media, my co-workers in government, at sa inyong lahat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and thank you for standing with us as we continue building a Bangsamoro that is confident, decisive, and ready to surge forward. Today's summit carries a theme that strikes at the very core of our mission, the role of private sectors, strengthening the humanitarian development peace nexus in BARM. It is a call to responsibility, to alignment, and to courage as we shape the region we want our children to inherit. Since assuming office last March, I have directed our institutions to move with greater clarity, stronger resolve, and a sharper sense of timing. At ang pinakamahalaga, hindi ito para sa pamunuan lamang, kundi para sa bawat pamilyang Bangsamoro na matagal nang naghihintay ng tunay na pagbabago. We are laying down firm, lasting foundations so this region can rise not only with peace, but with purpose and prosperity. We are strengthening humanitarian systems, accelerating development programs, and reinforcing our peace pillars with a clear understanding that stability is not a gift. It is the outcome of hard work, discipline, and unity. Yet even the strongest government cannot do this alone. Kaya inuulit ko, ang lakas ng BARM ay hindi lamang nanggaling sa pamunuan. Nasa kamay ito at talino ng private sector. You build the industries that move economies. You create livelihoods that strengthen households. You spark innovation that opens doors for a region long kept at the margins. And here in BARM, where resilience is abundant and potential is extraordinary, your role is not just important, it is indispensable. That is why we are investing heavily in infrastructure, modernizing our regulatory environment and making it easier for businesses to enter, expand, and excel. These reforms are not abstract. They are deliberate steps to make BARM a region where enterprise can flourish without hesitation. But today, I push for something more. Let us move as one force, government and private sector, designing solutions not separately but together. Let us build industries that empower farmers, strengthen halal markets, and open global opportunities for our people. Kapag sabay-sabay nating itinulak ito, hindi malayong maging sentro ng kaunlaran at kapayapaan ang BARM. Isang rehiyon handang makipagsabayan, hindi makiuso lamang. This is the momentum we need. This is the momentum we cannot afford to waste. Peace lasts when families have dignity through livelihood. Development gains traction when businesses thrive. Humanitarian efforts endure when opportunity reaches the farthest barangay. And this is why your partnership today is more than symbolic. It is strategic, transformative, and necessary. Let this summit be our launchpad. Let it be the gathering where ideas collide, where ambitions converge, and where we set in motion an economic direction that is resolute, disciplined, and unstoppable. We are not here to repeat the past. We are here to define the future. We are here to prove that the Bangsamoro, once seen only through the lens of conflict, can now stand as a model of unity, leadership, and a shared determination between government and the private sector. Together, we will accelerate development, we will institutionalize peace, and we will make Bangsamoro not only stable, but truly powerful and progressive. Sama-sama nating itayo ang rehiyong may dangal, may direksyon, at may kinabukasang pinaghirapan. Maraming salamat po. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Shukran, the Cabinet Secretary. Shukran, the BARM Cabinet Secretary, Mohammed Asnin Pindado. To further inspire us, we now have a special message of support from the Speaker of the BARM Parliament, Dr. Mohammed S. Yaqub, through an audio-visual presentation.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, organizers, private sectors, colleagues in the government service, partners in the progress, it is with great honor and optimism that I extend my warmest greetings and steadfast support to all of you as we conduct the third BARM Private Sector Organizations Summit with the theme, The Role of Private Sectors, Strengthening the Humanitarian Development Peace Nexus in BARM. My appreciation goes with the organizers of this momentous event, the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, BPDA, together with the Bangsamoro Private Sector Committee under the Bangsamoro Economic and Development Council, 𝗕𝗍𝗃. This gathering embodies the spirit of collaboration essential to our region's future. You are coming together to explore how businesses and enterprises can connect humanitarian aid, sustainable development, and lasting peace, core pillars of our shared vision for thriving Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, BARM. In this time of our quest for continuous development in the region, the private sector stands as beacon of resilience and innovation. Your efforts to harness economic growth, considering the humanitarian needs and strengthening peace-building initiatives, not only foster inclusive prosperity, but also heal the words of conflict and pave the way for more opportunities for our people. I commend the 𝗕𝗍𝗃 and the BPDA for championing this nexus, reminding us that true progress in BARMs is measured not just by economic metrics, but by the dignity, security, and well-being it brings to every family and community. Let this summit inspires board partnerships that turn challenges into triumphs, ensuring that no one is left behind in our journey toward self-determination and harmony. As Speaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament, I pledge my continued commitment to policies that empower the private sector as a strong force for the attainment of our goals for the Bangsamoro. Together, we can build a BARM where peace is not just an absence of war, but a presence of justice, opportunity, and compassion. May your deliberation yield actionable insights and enduring alliance. May Allah guide our collective path forward, guide our steps, and make us instruments of goodness in our beloved Bangsamoro. Once again, congratulations to all of you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah wa syukran. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
At this point, to give us an overview of today's summit and its objectives, let's welcome the Senior Economic Development Specialist of the BPDA, Engineer 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗃.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I would like to greet our distinguished guests, esteemed officials, valued development partners, BMOAs, and BPDA colleagues led by our respectful leader, Engineer Muhajirin Ali. Also wants to acknowledge our partners from the private sector organizations and various national, regional, and local government and agencies who are with us today. Thank you and good morning. I am pleased to present the objectives and overview of the third BARM Private Sector Organization Summit, which is being held alongside the inaugural BARM Innovation Summit. This presentation will summarize key updates and milestones from the first and second PSO Summit. The first summit resulted in the BEDSI Resolution number 22 series of 2023, which established the Bangsamoro Private Sector Committee, or BPSC, and its thematic working group. During the second summit, we focused on the capacity building and benchmarking among PSO partners, as well as the approval of the BEDSI Resolution number 18 series of 2024 and BPSC Resolution number 4 series of 2025. This was driven by an increased participation from the selected private sector organization and PSRs in the National Private Sector Conference organized by the DepDev Labs 2023 to 2024 to enhance networking opportunities and collaboration with private sector stakeholders. This two event is conducted today and tomorrow with this year theme strengthening the humanitarian development peace nexus and advancing regional economic integration in BARM, emphasizing our collective commitment to building a resilient, inclusive, and forward-thinking Bangsamoro region. The HDP nexus refers to the interconnection and mutual reinforcement between humanitarian development and peace-building actions, climate change impact, and conflict dynamics. Tomorrow, for Day 2, is the first Innovation Summit led by the MTIT. The summit objections are all reflected on the screen. The expected output included two main aspects. First, there will be an alignment of HDP Nexus policies and governance to enhance consistency with the BARM development plan. Second, a strengthened multi-sector engagement roadmap for the private sector in the HDP Nexus, while guide joint initiative and resource mobilization, promoting coordinated intervention that foster collective ownership and sustainability in BARM development goals. You can scan the third PSO program for the details using the QR code on the back of your IDs, and some materials are all there. We have a total of 200 participants, which include BARM MOAs, academia, CSOs, SMEs, cooperatives, and business chamber and industry players. Which of this group brings valuable insights, experience, and energy to these collaborative activities. And that concludes my presentation. But as we move forward, we would like to present the milestone or PSO Summit from its extension through ABP. Thank you once again, and wassalam, 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘃𝗁𝗃 𝗦𝗂𝗰𝗂𝗰𝗁. Thank you.
The Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, or BPDA, which provides secretariat services to the 𝗣𝗶𝗃, conducted the first Foreign Private Sector Summit on November 16, 2023 in Davao City. This event aimed to create a platform for the private sector to engage in dialogue and collaborate with the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. This summit aimed to leverage the collective expertise, resources, and knowledge of the private sector to stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and promote sustainable development within the region. The program had 3 parts: plenary, exhibit, and thematic sessions, which includes research and development, community engagement and development programs for youth, women, and other vulnerable sectors, and investment, enterprise development, and employment generation. The activity also features products made or promoted in the region, which are showcased during the summit. It also outlines crucial steps that will institutionalize 𝗣𝗃 processes. The first summit served as the pivotal event that led to the approval of 𝗣𝗃 Resolution Number 22, Series of 2023, which established a special committee dedicated to private sector organizations under the 𝗣𝗃, the Bangsamoro Private Sector Committee, or BPSC. Bangsamoro PSO Accreditation Platform, or BPAP, an online PSO accreditation and profile, and PSO Directory. On the 25th day of November 2024, the BPDA conducted its second Foreign PSO Summit at Davao City. The second Foreign Private Sector Organizations, or PSO Summit, builds on the first summit's goal of creating a collaborative space for the private sector, including businesses, academia, and civil society organizations, or CSO, to engage with the government. This summit focused on identifying policy gaps that need to be addressed to support job creation, innovation, and sustainable development in the region. A major outcome was the recommendation to establish strong policy, legal, and institutional frameworks that will improve collaboration between the public sector, private sector, and CSOs. These efforts aim to boost inclusive economic growth and long-term development in BARM. Key initiatives discussed include the proposed BARM Public-Private Partnership, or PPP Code, which will encourage private investment in infrastructure and development projects, the ongoing creation of the MSME Development Plan, the Bangsamoro Revenue Code, and other related policies to support economic growth in the region. Today marks the third Private Sector Organizations, or PSO Summit, themed Strengthening Humanitarian Development Peace Nexus in and Advancing Regional Economic Integration in BARM. This summit aims to enhance the role of the private sector, encourage innovation, and promote collaboration among different sectors to advance inclusive economic growth, achieve lasting peace, and ensure sustainable development throughout the Bangsamoro region. The third PSO Summit highlights the signing of Memorandum of Cooperation with BPP Center and the BPDA.
To further strengthen To further strengthen the public-private partnership in the Bangsamoro region, we will now witness the signing of the significant partnership between the Public-Private Partnership, or the PPP Center, and the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority. This is a step forward for collaboration and progress. May I invite the Bangsamoro Director General of the BPDA, Engineer Mohadjirin Ali, the Deputy Executive Director of the Public-Private Partnership Center, Mr. 𝗕𝗿𝗱𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗠𝗠, together with the witnesses, the BPA Directors, Ms. Melanie M. Indor, Mr. Ahmad A. Ginta, and Engineer 𝗕𝗿𝗱𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗠𝗠 Jr., together with Ms. Shelo A. Regalado from the PPP Center. We are now witnessing the ceremonial signing of the Memorandum of Cooperation between the PPP Center and the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority. May we request our audience to give it rounds of applause for this significant milestone. Once again, round of applause for this ceremonial signing of the Memorandum of Cooperation. This ceremonial signing will further strengthen the establishment of public-private partnership in the Bangsamoro region. A round of applause, please.
Let us now lend our ears to an inspiring insights from the Deputy Executive Director of the PPP Center, Mr. 𝗕𝗿𝗱𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗠𝗠.
Salamat po. Magandang umaga. Kabsek, Engineer Ali, my fellow Kapanday MNSA graduate, Masek Montenegro, Madam City Administrator. I will not mention all others, hindi ko po wala pa kung mga pangalan ninyo, but other officials, dignitaries, guests, private sector representatives, magandang umaga po. Thank you for having us here. Ako si Eli, Assistant Secretary Eli Ricote of the PPP Center. Meron po tayong PPP Center, an official government agency under the Department of Economy, Planning and Development. This is the government agency mandated to coordinate, assist, guide, provide technical assistance, capacity building, bring in development partners to all of PPP undertakings in the national government, which we are trying to replicate and bring down to BARM as something we think you should be doing as well. And I think very timely po ang ating event ngayon. Congratulations to the organizers for this third private sector organization. And I applaud our private sector organizations here today joining us, celebrating collaboration, partnership, and alignment of initiatives and efforts towards a shared objective. Sabi nga po natin, di ba, governance is beyond the state public administration. Pamamahalang pangmadla na hindi lamang Estado ang kasangkot, kung hindi lahat ng governance actors. Very important, governance actors are private organizations, private business who contribute directly and indirectly into the conduct of governing. Ang PPP Center po, as you know, is itong ating MOA signing ngayon is not maraming background work that led to this signing today. Matagal naman namin kausap sila, Director Darren and her team, the BPDA office, and her very energetic boys and girls, talking to the PPP Center, looking at areas where we can collaborate and see how we can help you. And of course, we are most willing and open to help them. And this signing today is the culmination of that commitment to help you. And so again, in behalf of the PPP Center organization and my Secretary Balisacan, I am honored to affirm our commitment to assist, help, guide, handhold our BPDA in the pursuit of PPP agenda, PPP policies, programs, and projects. The signing is timely and significant given the recent passage of the PPP law. As you know, the Philippines is the first to have enacted a formal framework that enjoins private sector participation sa formal government programs and projects. Nasa Constitution natin nakalagay, the state to recognize the role of the private sector in development. Over the years, we've had frameworks, BOT law, joint venture guidelines, etc. But the current legal framework, we've consolidated that into a unified PPP law, which takes on or builds upon the lessons of the previous projects. And we hope to replicate that. I know BARM is pushing for the same, and again, we're helped to help you. Our partnership with BPDA marks the important milestones and identifies key collaboration areas that reflect the shared commitment to foster inclusive and sustainable infrastructure development through PPPs. This also supports the ongoing efforts of BPDA to establish a PPP framework, your own PPP framework. They have made significant progress in putting together a PPP guidelines, creating the technical working group, preparing the groundwork for the eventual operationalization of the PPP Center within BARM. Again, for our part, we affirm our commitment to provide technical assistance, capacity building, knowledge sharing, helping, strengthening, hand-holding our BARM counterparts. I am happy also to mention that we are doing this in collaboration with the Mindanao Authority. As Montenegro is here, we've had several meetings with them. We're part of the infrastructure agenda that Minda has been pushing for. We have a PPP office in the Minda, and Secretary Magno has been, panikikita niya ako, please go ahead and help BARM. Nandito na po ako, sir. And we're happy that this is getting operationalized, getting formalized today. As we have established a framework, we take another step in creating an enabling framework and institutionalizing specific next steps for our counterpart PPP team. We look forward to a productive partnership. Specifically, we look forward to a pipeline of PPP projects that us, Minda, and BPDA will promote to prospective investors. We're looking forward to specific proposals to review and test and eventually lead to actual award and implementation. It's very important. Infrastructure, development projects, services, and systems that can only be put together with the innovation, creativity, resources of the private sector. That's the need for a well put together, diligently structured PPP undertakings. Again, maraming salamat. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for the very warm welcome to the PPP Center. Magandang umaga po ulit.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Ricote. Another message will be delivered to us by ASEC Romeo Montenegro, Deputy Executive Director of MINDA.
Distinguished officials, of course, Director General Muhajirin Ali of the PPTA, representing the Chief Minister, very good friend, Muhammad Asnin Pendatun, our Cabinet Secretary for the BARM, and our partner as well in pursuing and advancing PPP development in Mindanao, Deputy Executive Director Ricote of the PPP Center. And representing the city government of Cotabato, Attorney Mitimbang. Of course, the power behind private sector and the business sector through the Bangsamoro Business Council, very good friend as well, Attorney Ronald Torres. And I also saw our partner for advancing many initiatives, especially in the BARM, particularly in 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗁, Mr. Ted Monroy of UNIDO, and representatives also of the European Union delegation to the Philippines who had been our partner for quite a number of initiatives, especially in the Bangsamoro region. All other delegates and participants, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Sa ngalan po ni Secretary Leo Magno ng Mindanao Development Authority, we convey our warm felicitations to everyone and our gratitude for being given this opportunity to be part of this very important undertaking. But before I move on, perhaps isang makomment ko lang, DG Ali. I have been in so many public engagements, public speaking engagements, both here and abroad. And my problem always is ang taas ng rostrum nila. But it's only here with BPDA that you have a height-sensitive rostrum. Probably this was designed for DG Ali and Attorney Torres. Sa aming mga challenge in terms of height. But definitely, it's so refreshing to be speaking ng ganito kababa ang rostrum. It increases our confidence in terms of being able to convey very important messages. But nonetheless, maraming salamat for this opportunity. The Mindanao Development Authority has always been proud and honored to be working closely with the Bangsamoro Regional Government on a number of key imperatives that we feel and we believe should be given priority by the national government and should be pursued collectively by Mindanaoans. It's also a privilege to join you in this important gathering that underscores the vital role of the private sector in advancing humanitarian development and peace efforts in the Bangsamoro region. Ang summit po na ito is both timely and relevant as we collectively pursue our shared vision for a peaceful, progressive, and self-reliant Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. It reaffirms your conviction that sustainable development cannot be achieved by government alone. It must be built through strong collaboration among the private sector, civil society, and local communities. BARM po, as far as we are concerned, is a symbol of progress whose time has come. In the last recent years, so much of what we saw and what we have been able to convey are messages of BARM transforming. From the number or increase of investments, from a significant reduction of poverty incidents, from several other development efforts that we now see taking shape in the BARM, this is definitely an indication of more good things to come. Yun nga lang po, malayo pa tayo, pero malayo na rin. So much still needs to be done, but nonetheless, so much also has been done. Therefore, all of us need to work together. Certainly, insofar as Minda is concerned, we always put premium and we always put priority to what should be highlighted in terms of development interventions in Mindanao. Dati-rati po, many decades ago, when we talked about economic growth, it's always that the performance at BARM pulls down the rest of Mindanao. Those were the thing of the past. Because today, the performance of BARM is already pulling up Mindanao. Yes, Davao region consistently leads among the 18 regions in the Philippines, is among the top performing regions in the country. Northern Mindanao of Cagayan also is a top performing region of the country. But what is not being told and retold and conveyed is that so much of the economic activities of the Davao region and the Northern Mindanao region actually emanated from the Bangsamoro region. When we talked about Cavendish bananas, where we are fourth in the world, so much of that comes from Bangsamoro region. When we talked about seaweeds, when we are fourth in the world, half of that come from Western Peninsula in the Bangsamoro region as well. 8 out of top 10 commodities of the Philippines that are export-oriented come from Mindanao. More than half of these from the BARM region. 8 of the top 10 coffee-producing provinces of the Philippines come from Mindanao as well. And many of these provinces, next to Sultan Kudarat, are also from Mindanao. Yun nga lang, hindi na-highlight na ito palang mga raw materials na ito palang pinagmulan ng mga agricultural products galing sa BARM. Because when these are processed, when these are exported, unfortunately, nawawalan na tayo sa equation. Just like seaweeds. Our seaweeds produced in Tawi-Tawi, harvested as raw-dried seaweeds or RDS, brought to Tacloban and Cebu for processing into food-grade karajinan for exports to Korea, to India, to US, and many other countries. And so it's Cebu and Tacloban that earn the dollar-denominated revenues, hindi ang ating mga seaweeds farmers in Tawi-Tawi as an example. Now, this is an example of what should be pursued in all other regions or all other areas of the BARM. But we are also acknowledging the fact kung ano ba ang kulang sa atin. Number 1, kuryente. If we do not have enough reliant, sustainable electricity, then we cannot expect processing and value adding to ever take place. BARM, unfortunately, only has about 50% rural electrification rates. Of the 34 electric cooperatives all over Mindanao, the ones in BARM need help. The ones in BARM need the necessary support. That's why so much of our focus under the Mindanao Power Monitoring Committee, which Minda co-chairs with the Department of Energy, is directed towards addressing the problems of electrification, especially in the BARM area. A number of these initiatives, actually, we wanted replicated in several other areas in the BARM region. The first ever hybrid plant built in Mindanao is a 1.6 megawatt solar hybridized with battery in 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗃. Yun lang, because hindi pa tapos ang paglatag ng linya, hindi pa siya na commercially operated, and some other concerns of the assets. But this is also what we envision to be pursued together with 𝗕𝗂𝗺𝗺 and DOE and BARM Menre and all other similarly situated off-grid areas of the BARM. Bakit inuna namin yung 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗃? Because if we can do this in the farthest part of the Philippines, in the most difficult place to reach, it can be done anywhere else in the BARM region and in Mindanao. But kuryente pa lang yun. Ang next na tanong, what about water? Mindanao has about 422 municipalities. Half of these, or around 213, do not have access to level 3 water system. 100 of these 213 are in the BARM. That's why in our partnership with the PPP Center and with the BPDA, ang tutok natin in terms of identifying low-hanging fruits for potential private sector participation in terms of projects and financing should be towards water system. Kasi ang pinaka-simbolo ng dignidad sa isang pamilya ay may tamang potable water supply that prevents our children from getting any waterborne diseases. So in partnership with UNIDO, MINDA put together a project proposal for funding under the Climate Adaptation Fund. Climate Adaptation Fund is a global funding mechanism that is being given to countries all over the world that would want to pursue climate resilient, climate adaptation projects. Every budget cycle, Climate Adaptation Fund allocates $20 million for the Philippines. In April of this year, the Philippines was able to tap for the first time and approve with that project of $10 million. Water Energy Food Nexus, which is level 3 water system in 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗃. It's the first instance that the Philippines has been able to tap into that funding. That is going to be a business model which we wanted replicated in all other similarly situated areas in the Bangsamoro region. Ito po ang gusto naming tingnan. Ano ba ang hinahanap ng mga investors for their business to flourish, for processing to be even possible? Kuryente at tubig. Because these are what is lacking across many areas in Mindanao. Mindanao, yes, is rich in terms of agriculture output. 40% of the country's food trade is supplied by Mindanao. Yet, the poorest sectors in Mindanao are farmers and fisher folks. Bakit ganun? Kasi po, base sa datos, kakulangan sa kuryente, kakulangan sa tubig, yun, walang opportunity for processing, for value adding. Kaya ang labas, subsistence level lamang ang earning ng ating mga farmers and fisher folks. But if we are able to massively put forward these strategic investments in partnership with the private sector to connect production areas to the processing centers and papasok ang public works and DOTR for ports, airports, and road connectivity, and papasok ang DA for farm-to-market roads, then we see the entire government working in an ecosystem that makes it possible for a simple farmer to expect better earning, to expect better income, so that he can look forward for a better future para sa kanyang pamilya. Yan po ang hinahangad natin sa mga pag-uusap na ganito. Government and private sector closely working together, understanding what the problem is, and working together to find solutions together to address that problem. Hindi lamang pabayaan ng private sector ang pabayaan ng government na kanya-kanyang gumagawa ng kanya-kanyang adhikain, but both should be closely working together. And this summit is a demonstration of that very important formula that will take us to the next level in terms of growth and development, especially in the BARM. a few years ago, siguro mga more than 10 years ago, in one BIMP-IAGA Senior Official Ministers Meeting in Kota Kinabalu, when the Chief Minister of Sabah, Chief Minister of Sarawak took turns in presiding over a forum of local government officials in the BIMP-IAGA. We could only wish at the time, sana darating ang panahon, Chief Minister naman of the BARM presiding over such a meeting. That wish came into reality last week when no less Chief Minister 𝗕𝗂𝗃 presided over the Chief Ministers, Governors, and Local Government Forum done in Davao City. A demonstration that indeed it is time for the BARM to shine internationally, in an international discussion, in an effort to talk clearly, meaningfully across the border with Malaysia, with Indonesia, and with Brunei. Not just in terms of investments, but also particularly in terms of how our respective local governments can work together in terms of finding a meaningful collaboration to create opportunities, especially for our people and through the private sector. In the last recent weeks also, we are glad to be collaborating with the MTIT in terms of our outbound mission. Kasama ko rin po si Attorney Torres when we did our outbound mission in Brunei, which drew several interests from Brunei investors in terms of looking at opportunities for Mindanao, especially in halal. About 2 weeks ago, we were also together, 3 weeks ago, we were together also with Minister Farsarina in Kuala Lumpur during the ASEAN Summit for a forum with business leaders of Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, presenting the investment opportunities for BARM. Next week, together with the Philippine Chambers of Commerce and Industry, we will be embarking on a mission in Qatar, looking at presenting opportunities, especially in BARM. Qatar, which has long conveyed their interest to really pursue development, pursue projects, and look at opportunities in Mindanao, especially in the BARM region. Particularly in the areas also of whether or not they can take part in the Islamic financing, which is needed, especially in many of our big-ticket projects in Mindanao. Last month, we launched also the Mindanao PPP Desk together with the PPP Center. And we are so glad to see that this morning, the same collaboration was also galvanized by PPP Center and the PPDA. Sapagkat hindi lang po nalalaan, nakatutok sa pondo ng pamahalaan ang ating kinakailangan sa maraming proyekto na dapat nating itaguyod. The private sector financing is always available. What they needed is a mechanism. Paano ba simulan? Saan bang proyekto? Ano ba ang mga mekanismo? Transparent ba ito? Paano maitawid yung mga challenges so that they see the viability of pursuing such projects? And today is the first step of that, especially here in the BARM with the MOC of BPDA and the PPP Center. This initiative reflects our collective commitment to turn partnerships into projects, ideas into investments, linking opportunities even with our international partners or development partners. During the last Mindanao Development Forum about 3 weeks ago in Davao, in bilateral discussions with World Bank, with EU, with ADB, lahat po sila walang ibang bukang bibig. How can they increase their development interventions, especially in the Bangsamoro region? And I think that definitely is an indication of more work ahead in terms of BPDA putting forward many of these interests by our development partners and donors for big-ticket projects in the region. And as Mindanao's coordinating agency, Mindanao Development Authority remains committed to working closely with BPDA and BEDC, lalo-lalo na po yung Committee on BIMP-IAGA, to align regional priorities, foster policy coherence, and strengthen multi-sector collaboration in advancing Mindanao Peace and Development Framework and the Bangsamoro Development Plan. Kaya nga tuwang-tuwa din kami na next week, isusulong natin sa pakikipagtulungan ng Minda at ng Bangsamoro or ng BARM Menre ang Bangsamoro or BARM Energy Forum to be held in Davao. That again is a concrete effort that we wanted to put together to address and find ways by which to address the pervading issue of electrification and power supply constraints in many areas of the Bangsamoro region. By working on this together, we can transform the dividends of peace into lasting prosperity. By institutionalizing innovation as a driver of growth and ensuring that the benefits of development reach every community across the Bangsamoro region. We believe that peace and progress are inseparable. The growth we seek must be anchored on inclusivity, sustainability, and respect for diversity, values that have long defined the Bangsamoro spirit. As we strengthen economic cooperation and regional linkages, we are also deepening the roots of peace that will sustain Mindanao's transformation for generations to come. We wish to reaffirm Minda's unwavering commitment to the Bangsamoro government and to all stakeholders gathered here today. The journey toward lasting peace and prosperity is a shared responsibility, one that requires vision, unity, and trust. Let us therefore continue to work together, government and private sector, national and regional partners, to build a better Mindanao. Maraming salamat. Shukran.
Thank you, ASEC Romeo Montenegro and the Deputy Executive Director of the Mindanao Development Authority. At this point, we will hear another special message from the Executive Cabinet Member of the National Innovation Council, Mr. Mark Sultan Gersava.
So isang napakagandang umaga po sa ating lahat. So it's been a privilege to be with you here today. Just to give you an overview, the National Innovation Council, we are the highest governing policy body in innovation and national development. So as the Executive Cabinet Member of the National Innovation Council, I am deeply grateful to witness how BARM in investing in innovation, the very engine that will carry this region into the future. And sobrang natuwa ako from Cotabato City that they are already doing a lot on how to address the barriers of innovation, like one day permitting, because that's basically our agenda on Thursday, on how we can make on how we can address the barriers in innovation, and basically business registration is one of the major barriers, because our target by 2028 that in terms of business registration, it's not really one day, but it should be 3 hours. When you register or when you renew, in 1 to 3 hours, you are just going to print your business registration. That's the vision of the President and the National Innovation Council in order to mainstream innovation, and we can create more. We can create more entrepreneurs. We can push more innovators to bring their innovation into policy, into program, and basically to commercialize. So when I was appointed by the President as the youngest Executive Cabinet Member of the National Innovation Council, I carried with me the stories of the displaced, the poor, and the forgotten. Because I grew up lumaki po ako in around OP and Libak, Sultan Kudarat. So it's been almost 20 years of my life, okay, hearing the gunfires, bakwit here, bakwit everywhere. And I'm so lucky enough to be appointed in this position. Because when we talk about innovation, it's not just all about solving problem. It is in new ways, but it is creating opportunities where none existed and building systems that allow every community, even the most marginalized, to thrive. Because when peace is strengthened, innovation becomes possible. And when innovation thrives, peace becomes sustainable. The NIC framework, or the National Innovation Agenda, which we crafted in 2023, is our national machinery designed to put innovation at the center of the development policies. It aims to transform the Philippines into a smart and innovative nation, providing a structured approach for enhancing governance, deepening innovation efforts, and strengthening public-private partnership across the priority areas. Since 2022, we have our 1 billion innovation fund, and we provide a lot of grant for the local government unit and national and NJAs, and we're looking forward for the next year that BARM will access that funding. Beyond that, we also provide an opportunity for our private sector, especially for our MSME and for the startup sector. Last week, we just concluded the Presidential Philippine Innovation Awards, where we acknowledge and we recognize 5 Filipino innovators from the private sector that received 3.5 million to accelerate their innovation. And we're looking forward these 5 Filipino innovators will join the President in the World Economic Forum to showcase Philippine innovation to the world. Next year, will be more challenging because we are targeting to increase to 5 million pesos. So for our startup sector, for the MSME, it's time for us to really to innovate and to showcase BARM. And we're looking forward that next year, there will be 1 or 2 or more Filipino innovators that will emerge from BARM region. At its core, the framework really championed the inclusive innovation, creating solutions that directly benefit the lower income and marginalized. This is the very essence of BARM's commitment to moral governance and addressing the roots of conflict. If we align our policies, strengthen partnership, embrace innovation, and commit to the HDP nexus, we will not only build a stronger BARM, we will build a future where every Bangsamoro child can dream without fear. For the private sector, the NIC framework opened an immense opportunities. This is where you can shine, leveraging your experience, agility, and resources to champion innovation and drives peace and development. The NIC mandates the creation of an enabling innovation ecosystem, and our role is very critical to be the engine of innovation, working hand in hand within the academe and the government sector. I urge everyone here to use the framework, the National Innovation Agenda, as a compass to harmonize private sector initiatives and to move beyond partnerships, rhetoric toward and actively co-creating solutions through innovation. Let be the strategic roadmap that will be crafted today and tomorrow will be a strategic innovation roadmap to the Bangsamoro, integrating the best of Philippine innovation with a distinct potential of the region. Let innovation be the engine that drives the HDP nexus, ensuring a lasting, inclusive, and prosperous peace. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Mr. Mark Sultan Gersaba, the Executive Cabinet Member of the National Innovation Council. Before we proceed to the next part of our activity, let's capture this moment with a group photo together with our VIPs, guests, and participants. May I request everyone to please rise for our group photo opportunity. Once again, may I request everyone to please rise for our group photo opportunity. We encourage everyone as well to bring their best smile and kindly compress para po tayo ay masali sa picture. We request the participants at the back to please kindly proceed in front para po tayo ay masali sa picture. Again, kindly come forward yung mga nasa likod po para po sa ating group photo. And on the count of 3, let's wear a best smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone.
We now move on to our plenary session, where our experts share key insights on the role of the private sector in strengthening the human development peace nexus.
Our first speaker is a development worker with 15 years of experience. He currently serves as the Sustainable Development Goals Specialist of the United Nations for Development Philippines, where he managed the SDG portfolio of the country office, including SDG Finance, SDG Partnerships, and SDG Localization. Ladies and gentlemen, for our first topic, Advancing HDP Nexus and Sustainable Development Through Private Sector Engagement, Mr. 𝗍𝗏𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗠𝗠, the SDG Specialist from the UNDP Philippines. Rounds of applause, please. Once again, Mr. 𝗍𝗏𝗕𝗠𝗠 to deliver the first topic of the summit. Rounds of applause, please.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Good morning, everyone. First of all, congratulations to the BPDA for organizing this very important event. And it's such a pleasure for the United Nations Development Program to be here with you all this morning. So again, we are from the United Nations Development Program. For some of us who are not very familiar with the UNDP, we are a development agency of the United Nations system. And here in the Philippines, we have been working here in the Philippines for over 40 years, working in the space of democratic governance, peace building, as well as on climate action, among others. My task today, the task that was given to me by Ms. Da, is to share some global lessons, country perspectives related to humanitarian, development, and peace nexus. So I will try to do that today. Maybe if we can pull in the presentation. Okay, thank you so much. So let me start with a brief recap of the HDP Nexus, the Humanitarian Development and Peace Nexus. And we want to start with the question on why. A lot of us are asking, what is that HDP and why are we doing that? Globally, we are already seeing actually the decline of extreme poverty. But when we look at the data, poverty is actually concentrated in areas where there are actually conflicts and fragility. So in the data, the estimate is that by 2030, 80% of people living in extreme poverty can be found in fragile and conflict-related situations. Humanitarian needs and the number of internally displaced persons have also been increasing in recent years. Along with this, we have this dual issue of climate change. We all know that climate-related shocks and disasters are becoming more frequent and intense. This compound the complexities and severity of the issues. And in fact, recently here in the Philippines, we have just experienced this in the past few months, seeing the impact of the disasters in the different parts of the Philippines. As such, the more logical way to move forward is for humanitarian development and peace building to actually be implemented in an integrated manner. When we talk about the HDP Nexus, this implies coordination, coherence, and complementarity across the three pillars. This would make more sense because issues such as poverty, as we know, are multidimensional. This means that issues such as poverty should be approached in an integrated manner, which will be more practical and impactful as well. When discussing the HDP Nexus approach, it is also important to note about the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development Assistance Committee, DAC recommendations in 2019 that puts forward several recommendations on how we can operationalize the HDP. Just to share some statistics from this 2019 recommendations, around 90% of the DAC members have actually already reported integrating HDP in their respective countries. However, to date, only 40% have evidences that this is actually being operationalized at a country level. Funding is a very tricky component of the HDP, and a lot of us are actually very familiar and aware of this issue. Data suggests that less than 15% of humanitarian funding is linked to either development and peace building, and peace is the pillar that gets the smallest funding across the nexus with less than 5%. With this in mind, the key message is actually clear. The three pillars are interacting dynamically, and one cannot succeed without the others. Therefore, for the HDP Nexus approach to become a success, the three pillars should come together. When we talk about the HDP Nexus, it is also but proper to come back to the issue and to the discussion of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is our broader framework in achieving sustainable development globally. We would recall the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals, are also known as our global goals. These have been adopted globally in 2015 by all United Nations member states. And this is our shared blueprint, our universal call to action to end poverty, all forms of deprivations, to improve health, education, reduce inequalities, achieve economic growth, and doing all of this while tackling climate change and environmental preservation. So it's really a collective, holistic approach in addressing the various issues that we are facing, both humanitarian, planetary, and as well as societal well-being. In this image, actually, it shows also the SDG hierarchy, which clearly visualizes or helps us visualize further the importance of the HDP. While peace is part of the society, it is very important that it should interact accordingly with the biosphere, the environment, as well as with the economy. And each of these cannot be achieved without each other as well. So the question that we have right now, I'm sure, is that where are we in terms of achieving and in terms of faring towards the Sustainable Development Goals? The sad reality is that it's 5 years to go before the 2030 deadline, And we are only 18% on track in terms of achieving the SDGs. More than 1/3 of the total targets that we have for the SDGs are actually either stagnating, meaning there's no improvement at all on these targets, and some of them are actually even worsened, which means they have regressed from the 2015 baseline. So the key message from this slide is that there's really that urgent call to action to really implement, practices and initiatives that are not business as usual for us to accelerate our progress for the SDGs. When we further investigate the different goals, the 17 goals, there are 3 goals there that are actually experiencing the most challenges. Goal 1, that's reducing or eliminating poverty. That's one of the goals we are experiencing challenges on. The second goal is on goal 6, that's providing clean water and sanitation. And then the third goal is peace. So peace, justice, and strong institutions is also experiencing a lot of challenges, as you can see in the slide. This underscores the urgent need for intensified efforts from everyone to push our SDG progress forward. In fact, with this latest report that was released, there is also a study from the United Nations SCAP that if we continue with this current pace of implementation for the SDGs the way we are doing it now, we can, in the Asia-Pacific region, we can only achieve the SDGs by 2062, which means that we are 32 years behind schedule. So this is really a call to action for us to rethink our ways towards the SDGs. When we look at the progress at the country level, we are actually seeing similar but also a bit of difference in terms of the trends. We are doing better for goal number 1 compared to the rest of the countries that are evaluated in the global progress earlier. That's one of our good goals. But we are seeing challenges in terms of SDG 11, that's sustainable cities and communities, as well as on SDG 3. For the first time since we have started the Philippine pace of progress here in the Philippines, SDG 3, or good health and well-being, has experienced regression for the Philippines. For sustainable SDG goal number 11, this is on sustainable cities and communities. This is where our vulnerability to disasters and climate action, climate change would come in, because this is where initiatives that relate to how we are resilient, how many citizens are affected by disasters, typhoons, etc., are actually usually reported. So we can see here also that SDG 16, while it's not yet fully reported in the Philippines because of lack of data or insufficient indicators, we are also seeing some positive trends. So again, a bit different to the global trends that we have. Let's zoom in on this SDG, the SDG 16. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Globally, violence and conflict continue to drive human suffering and displacement. In 2024, nearly 50,000 lives were actually lost to conflict. This is equivalent to 1 in every 12 minutes. Access to justice remains elusive. 1 in 3 prisoners worldwide are actually held without a proper sentence. So urgent action is needed to protect lives and restore trust through peace building, justice, reform, and accountability. When we look at the data from the Philippines, which is on the other side, the country is actually doing well in reducing violence. We are also seeing some progress in terms of inclusive decision-making. But we are still experiencing challenges in terms of providing legal identity, especially for children. Peace is a very important aspect of sustainable development, and I know we all agree with that. SDG 16 shows that it's actually an enabler for most of the SDGs, having strong linkages to the 10 out of the 17 goals. The most substantial evidence of interlinkages as per SDG 1, SDG 3 for good health and well-being, quality education, SDG 4, as well as gender equality and reduced inequalities as well. Improvement, therefore, on SDG 16 creates an enabling environment for peace, transparency, and stability while removing conditions that lead to instability and crisis. I saw that the time that was shown, so let me jump in quickly to this is a very important topic as well on financing. Earlier, I mentioned some quick statistics about how we are financing HDP Nexus globally. But did you also know that in terms of achieving the SDGs, we actually need $4.7 trillion annually, every year. Kailangan po natin ng $4.7 trillion para ma-achieve yung SDGs by 2030. So that amount actually seems huge, right? But when we look at the total global wealth, the latest reports show that there is actually $477 trillion that are available globally. So when we compare that to the global financing need for development, this is actually even less than 1% of the total global wealth. So the message is that money is actually available. There is money out there. The challenge is how we can actually properly allocate and use the resources so that it can go to our global goals and targets. A lot of us know also that in that global wealth, majority of that are coming from the private sector. In fact, 60% of that are coming from the private sector. So the question also is that, how can we convince the private sector to channel resources towards sustainable development? And this is a reminder that there's actually a very strong case, a business case for the SDGs already established. At this point, the SDGs open up new opportunities and big efficiency gains when in fact, in the latest studies about the global goals, at least $12 trillion are available in opportunities, particularly in food and agriculture, renewable energy, good health and well-being, as well as in creating sustainable cities through housing, water, and sanitation, among others. So there are already a lot of opportunities, and the private sector can really see investable and profit-oriented projects that can really support sustainable development in the country and also around the world. Now let us zoom in quickly with my last 2 minutes with some global lessons that we are learning in terms of applying HDP but also sustainable development as a whole. In Liberia, they have this what they call an inclusive governance portfolio. What it does is that it empowers communities by strengthening healthcare, so they are not only focusing on the reconciliation and conflict resolution frameworks, but they are also strengthening healthcare systems. They are improving their electoral systems, as well as their governance through improvement in government financing. In South Sudan, the focus is on youth and women. And their program involves job creation through strengthening the private sector. They are focusing on employability and entrepreneurship skills, as well as the availability of quality vocational skills. So their program is able to reduce vulnerability, build resilience against multiple shocks, and rebuild the trust in people and institutions. In Pakistan, it focused also on youth sector, but this example demonstrates how the role of the private sector will really maximize. The program established strategic partnership agreements with over 60 sector firms as well as associations to secure employment opportunities across a variety of industries. So their strategy is to embed livelihoods into peace process and ensuring that next generations have access to inclusive economic opportunity and have a stake in the ongoing stability of the nation. So my time is up. So let me, as I close, let me just quickly run through some of the reflections that we have in UNDP as we implement and we support the advancement of the HDP Nexus and the Sustainable Development Goals globally. First is on addressing funding silos. It is found helpful to embed livelihoods and stabilization into humanitarian and peace-building programs to address root causes of problems in conflict settings, and diversify the funding sources from various donors for greater flexibility. The second, we cannot overemphasize the value of localization. Localization is a process of recognizing, respecting, and strengthening leadership by local and national authorities and supporting the capacity of local CSOs and community-based organizations as well. And lastly, the role of women. The role of women is hugely critical. The involvement of women in conflict resolution is vital to achieve optimal outcomes. And the inclusion of women as negotiators, mediators, signatories, and witnesses increases the probability of lasting agreements. So as I end, I want to end with a quote from the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. He once said that unless we act now, the 2030 agenda will become an epitaph for a world that might have been. Nung sinabi niya po ito dun sa 2023 summit, he is thinking or coming from the context that in that latest report, during that time in 2023, it estimated that by 2030, there will still be 575 million people globally who will be living in extreme poverty. And remember, 80% of that are coming from the conflict-affected areas. 84 million children will still be will still be even going to elementary school by 2030. And it will take us 286 years. So sino pa po ang buhay sa atin during that time? 286 years to achieve gender equality. The role of the private sector and non-government organizations is very critical. The need to accelerate our efforts on the HDP and the SDGs is not only urgent, but also very important. And we hope that these lessons and these statistics that we learned today will help us move forward. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Quintans. For our second speaker, he serves as the country representative of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in the Philippines, with over 15 years of experience in designing and implementing programs that promote inclusive, sustainable, and environmentally responsible industrial development. Help me welcome Mr. Tzadi Monroy, the country representative of the UNIDO, to deliver us the second topic on HDP Nexus in the context of Mindanao and BARM. A warm round of applause.
Thank you for the introduction. Offering my greetings first and courtesy, of course, to the Bangsamoro government and, of course, to my friend, the hardworking BPDA Director General Muhajirin Ali. We all continue to work together for the betterment of the Bangsamoro. Good morning to everybody. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. First and foremost, I would like to commend and applaud the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, and of course, as well, the BARM, Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism, for mounting the third BARM Private Sector Summit back-to-back with the 2025 Innovation Summit. I am very grateful for the invitation we received for UNIDO to participate in this conversation today and to promote or provide a brief presentation on the importance of the humanitarian development peace nexus, its approach in addressing the drivers of protracted conflict and fragility that is slowing down the socio-economic development of the BARM. We try to link this as well later to our common vision of regional economic integration for the Bangsamoro. And my presentation will also try to touch on the crucial role of the private sector in operationalizing the HDP Nexus approach, wherein we will work closely with government and other development partners. Okay. So this is the title of my presentation, Accelerating the Economic Integration of BARM through the HDP Nexus Approach. So I will begin my presentation by sharing the current state of the BARM economy and its economic growth in 2024, offering a quick snapshot of its performance. I will then discuss the humanitarian development peace nexus approach very briefly and its importance in reducing vulnerabilities, increasing resilience, and catalyzing inclusive growth in the Bangsamoro so that we also prevent relapse to pre-peace process conditions. We will also share a very specific example if we still have time. After which, I will proceed to explaining the role of development partners as well as the private sector in implementing joint programs using the HDP Nexus approach. The presentation will then transition to talk about opportunities the HDP Nexus approach can open in terms of economic integration of BARM with other countries, especially within the region. My discussion today will then conclude with some practical recommendations and so forth. So let's begin. In 2024, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the BARM economy grew by only 2.7% compared to the year before. This is notably lower than the 4% growth that was reported back in 2023. Economic growth in 2024 was primarily driven by the service sector, contributing 42% to GDP, the agriculture, forestry, and fisheries sector, contributing 32.4%, and the industry, contributing 25.6%. Furthermore, the annual growth of BARM in 2024, while positive, is lower than the average annual growth rate of 5.7% for the whole country. In fact, BARM registered the lowest growth rate among all administrative regions in the Philippines. There are several reasons for this that may be able to explain this rather low performance. First is the contraction of the agriculture, forestry, and fisheries sector by a huge 4.2%. This was mainly thought to have been caused by repeated natural calamities brought about by climate change that derailed the sector's productivity. Growth of household final consumption expenditure, or HFCE, in 2024 was also quite unimpressive at only 3.6%, less than half of how it was back in 2023. This was largely due to slower income growth that is restraining consumption. And the continuing fragility in the region brought about by structural challenges, perhaps some persistent horizontal conflict, and climate-related impacts significantly contributes as well to the economic barriers. The development situation of BARM, many ways unique in comparison to other parts of the country, gives credence to the fact that humanitarian development and peace initiatives can no longer proceed separately if we want to see real positive impact and an acceleration in the socio-economic progress in BARM. Taking advantage of the peace dividends it has been able to attain these past years, these initiatives must work in unison. The Humanitarian Development Peace Nexus approach integrates humanitarian action, development programming, and peace building to address immediate needs while tackling underlying drivers of protracted conflict and fragility. Because of the coherence and coordinated action across all these three domains, aligning relief delivery, development action, and peace dividends, rather than the usual siloed efforts, more sustainable outcomes can be realized where we can see vulnerabilities reduced, resilience increased, and inclusive growth catalyzed. An example of an effort to implement the HDP Nexus approach in Mindanao, which also includes BARM, it can be seen on the current slide. In order to reduce sources of conflict and instability in many places in Mindanao and BARM, we realize and also realize an environment conducive for peace and development. An upcoming initiative funded by the European Union is being finalized by UNIDO, and hopefully we can start implementation by next year. In this initiative, by linking inclusive economic growth with enhanced rights-based social services and protection, the HDP approach can foster social cohesion, build trust between communities and institutions, and increase resilience to shocks. Collectively, these efforts will address structural inequalities, contributing to reducing sources of conflict and instability, and laying the groundwork for sustainable peace and development in the whole of Mindanao and BARM. The humanitarian action will focus on strengthening social protection services and increasing access to these social services. Meanwhile, the development action will prioritize access to self-sustaining, resilient livelihoods and capacity-building interventions that promote sustainable livelihoods and improve economic productivity. And finally, the peace-building action intends to enhance community resilience, to address and reduce drivers of persistent conflict. We are looking forward to working with the Bangsamoro and the Mindanao Development Authority in the implementation of this initiative next year. Now, let me move now to talk about what is the role of development partners in the HDP Nexus approach. I will not spend a lot of time in this slide because there are a few more slides that are more important for me to discuss. But just to go this through quickly, in the HDP Nexus approach, development partners like the United Nations work with all relevant actors to align strategies and funding, focusing on long-term prevention, resilience, sustainable development, and addressing the root causes of crisis. Development partners ensure that we do all of these things on the slide, so just going through them quickly, joint analysis, perhaps also providing support to build national capacity, put focus on prevention, promote policy dialogues, make sure that financing is coordinated, and conflict sensitivity and the do no harm principles are always put into action. And of course, inclusion is quite very important in the work of the development partners. This is what I want to more focus on, the role of the private sector. So on the other hand, private sector participation in the HDP Nexus is becoming more and more important because a lot of knowledge, systems, and technologies lie with the private sector. The private sector can act across all the 3 HDP pillars by mobilizing capital, logistics, markets, and governance-compliant partnerships that accelerate resilience, job creation, and durable peace in the Bangsamoro. In particular, in the aspect of relief and humanitarian logistics, private firms bring efficiency, redundancy, and scale to deliver chains, warehousing, and cash-based assistance. They can shorten relief cycles, improve last-mile distribution, and integrate local procurement to sustain ongoing markets even during shocks. In the area of development and livelihoods, private sector participation can help unlock value chain investments, expand SME access to finance and markets, support vocational training aligned to market needs, and co-fund infrastructure that raises productivity and living standards. And to maximize the peace dividends and ensure social cohesion, private sector engagement in inclusive hiring, local content requirements, and cross-border trade initiatives can map economic incentives to peaceful behavior, reduce grievances, and foster social ties across communities. Now, ultimately, the goal of the HDP Nexus approach is to help BARM catch up with the rest of the country and be able to be part of the broader socio-economic machinery, including participating in the regional economic integration, where economic cooperation is achieved by reducing or eliminating trade barriers such as tariffs and quotas. It involves economic policies that create a larger, more unified market with the goal of lowering costs, increasing productivity, and fostering economic growth among collaborating countries. However, it is more complicated than it seems. It is not simply just establishing membership in an exclusive club. There are certain prerequisites that are needed to be in place in order to ensure that the benefits from a regional economic integration can be realized, such as economic stability, effective institutions, regulatory frameworks on fair competition, and the national quality infrastructure, physical infrastructure such as transport, connectivity, and energy, and of course, competitive human capital. The HDP Nexus approach can help prepare BARM for this cooperation and capitalize on cross-border opportunities. So speaking of cross-border opportunities, I would like to take a few minutes to present to you some interesting information that we can look at. So immediately, we can identify 3 specific sectors in BARM that we can strengthen as part of the regional economic integration. First is the value-adding agro-industries such as food and beverage, crafts and furniture, textile, rubber products and leather products, and also processed sea products which have high potential in BARM. And I think Assistant Secretary Romeo Montenegro has also mentioned this earlier in his remarks. In addition, processed minerals to support the manufacture of electric wiring and plumbing, cement, ceramic products can likewise be further explored. Meanwhile, professional and business services such as IT, engineering, accounting, legal services, marketing, and consulting are also quite promising. Specifically for the already existing 1994 economic cooperation with the Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East ASEAN Growth Area, or the famous BIMP-AAGA, that was established to accelerate economic development in the underdeveloped, geographically remote areas of member countries, BARM and the rest of Mindanao can prioritize value chains involving halal food, tropical fruits, coffee, cocoa products, and seaweed products. And I heard yesterday from my discussions with BARM colleagues, also poultry. So poultry is also something that we can look at. Okay, so some quick proposed actions. I'm almost done with my presentation. If there is one single message that I would like everyone to take away from my presentation this morning is that the HDP Nexus approach is very crucial in BARM, and programs utilizing this approach is best implemented collaboratively by government, private sector, and development partners. While not an exhaustive list, on the slide is quite a list of some proposed actions we can consider in moving forward. So for instance, we can capitalize on BARM's devolved powers to tailor HDP interventions. We can co-create HDP programs with the private sector. We can look at blended finance, guarantees, and donor-aligned funding streams that can de-risk HDP-linked investments. Private sector procurement capabilities can be used to anchor public investments in the BARM. And we can also leverage CSR, enterprise development, and public-private partnerships to deliver some interventions in this area. We can also tap private sector logistics, and finally, create a private sector HDP coordination platform with joint monitoring dashboards. Now, I took the liberty to already craft some sort of a call for all of us to look at, for the private sector in particular. So let me just read this for you. So I was thinking that, BARM's path to durable peace and inclusive growth hinges on mobilizing private sector energy, capital, and expertise within a transparent, collectively governed HDB framework that links humanitarian relief, development investments, and peace dividends. Private sector partners are invited to work with us in co-designing, co-financing, and co-monitoring integrated programs, prioritizing cross-border value chains, local procurement that anchors BARM's SMEs, and gender-inclusive hiring, while committing to shared dashboards, risk-sharing instruments, and do-no-harm safeguards to ensure conflict sensitivity and community legitimacy. This collaboration will accelerate relief to development transitions, create durable jobs, boost regional markets, and deliver measurable peace dividends with clear pathways to join through sector platforms, joint investment frameworks, and governance mechanisms that enforce transparency and accountability. I would like to end my presentation here. I do want to also share with you some information about UNIDO, but I guess we will just have to share this PowerPoint presentation with everyone. But just quickly, UNIDO is a specialized agency of the United Nations mandated to accelerate inclusive and sustainable industrial and economic development by harnessing the full potential of industries and other economic sectors in ways that are already listed on the screen. So there are some more information here that perhaps I can request the Secretariat to share with you if you are interested. And we do look forward to work with you closely. And if you need to reach us, on the screen are our contact details. I thank you so much for your time. I do wish that we have more time to discuss, but it is what it is. Thank you so much again, and wishing everyone a productive day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monroy. For the information of everybody, you can access the presentation of our speakers through scanning your QR code behind your IDs. To proceed with the third topic, from data to action and inclusive business models, our third speaker leads initiatives that connect the university with partners in government, civil society, and the private sector to advance peace, sustainability, and inclusive development across Mindanao. With a background in industrial organizational psychology, he specializes in leadership, community engagement, and team development. Help me welcome Mr. Mark Paul O. Samante, Chairperson of the University Community Engagement and Advocacy Council of the Ateneo de Davao University. A warm round of applause.
Magandang umaga po. To our Director General of the BPDA, Engineer Ali, to the Executive Director of the PPP Center, Mr. 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗏, BARM officials, province and city officials, fellow resource persons, participants, good morning. Sa katabi niyo po sa kanan, pakisabi po kung nagmerienda na ba sila. Pakitanong. Okay. Sa katabi niyo po sa kaliwa, pakisabi po, maya-maya lang magtatanghalian na ulit tayo. Okay, so it's a privilege to be here in front to share about data to action in strengthening the humanitarian development peace nexus in the BARM. So, slide please. Okay. BARM's development and peace-building efforts require more than policies. They require partnerships, innovation, and evidence-driven action. And since the establishment of the BARM, I believe this has been already being explored and implemented in all the different codes that you have crafted. So let's look back at the journey of the BARM. From conflict to peace, it required integration of combining the humanitarian response, development, and peace building. Then there's also the gap. Acknowledging the gap between the private sector and higher education can provide expertise, research, and innovation to accelerate peace and development. And just to highlight some of the initiatives and contributions of the university. So through the office that I represent in the University Community Engagement and Advocacy Council, and the different centers was able to provide support and assistance in our different partner communities, especially here in the BARM. So one of the key centers that we have in the university is the Al-Kalam Institute. So if you've heard of the Al-Kalam Institute, it's currently with the university, and we have been engaging the BARM communities with the different programs and projects that we can bring in. We also did some research on conflict-sensitive development, livelihood program, and disaster resilience. And we also were able to provide some capacity building for local leaders, entrepreneurs, and youth in the BARM. The university has been hosting several forums and symposias wherein we invite resource persons and members of the BARM to share their insights as well in the BARM and how the university can be of help. So peace and development thrive when knowledge, innovation, and business collaborate responsibly. The two speakers before me were able to put in the initial points for this to happen. So what's the role of the private sector and higher education? First, the private sector. Economic empowerment and job creation for displaced and vulnerable communities. So if we have partners currently in attendance from the private sector, this is one of the area wherein the private sector can come in. Inclusive business models, supporting local SMEs, and supply chains. And partnerships with NGOs, LGUs, and universities to enhance impact. Just the other day, last week, we had a meeting with OPAPRU and private organization, Kennemer Foods, exploring a tripartite agreement between OPAPRU, the university, and the private institution to look into providing avenues of support for different communities in the Davao region as well as in the BARM. And as a higher education institution, our contribution is on knowledge generation via data collection, impact assessment, and monitoring. So ito po yung isang expertise ng university at ng mga higher education institutions. Pwede po kaming tumulong sa paghahanap at pag-gather ng data na kakailanganin para makatulong. We also can help in capacity building and skills training for youth and entrepreneurs. So, aside from capacity building and skills training, we are also offering this as courses in the university. So, we also provide this not as formal education classes, but as part of our trust of lifelong learning. Because ang pag-aaral po ay hindi natatapos sa pagkakuha ng degree, pagkakuha ng master's degree o ng PhD. Habang tayo po ay nabubuhay, we will provide opportunities para magtuloy-tuloy ang edukasyon through lifelong learning, and this is where capacity building and skills trainings come in. So we have the Ateneo de Davao Lifelong Learning Center. Then we are also involved in co-creation of innovative solutions for livelihood, peace building, and social enterprise. Kaninang umaga po, while waiting for our ride papunta dito, nag-usap kami ni Sir Mark about innovations. And ang innovation po, minsan, sabi nga niya, nalilimit dun sa paggamit ng teknolohiya. Pero innovation po ay hindi lamang teknolohiya, it's one part. But it can also mean systems. It can also mean processes. So hindi po dapat malimit yung pagtingin natin at pag-intindi sa innovation sa mga teknolohiyang meron, kung di pwedeng sa simpleng proseso, gaya nung na-share niya kanina sa business permitting. So, the university has been involved in a lot of innovative solutions for social enterprise. So may mga centers po under my office who specializes on this. So an example of this is, we as an academe provide the research data harnessed through our research centers, our community engagement centers. We encourage private sector investments in inclusive value chains, and we look to work with the NGOs to facilitate community engagement. When universities and businesses collaborate, the peace dividend multiplies. So isa po dito, during the time of the pandemic, problema po natin ang internet connectivity kahit saan po tayo. Mobile data is not sufficient, especially in the GIDA areas of the country. So as the data that we gathered presented us with a challenge, may mga estudyante po kami na nag-aaral sa university na walang internet connection. And to help with that, kasi nga po, na nakuha na namin yung information, the data we were able to gather, that connectivity is a problem at hindi enough ang mobile data para sa pag-aaral ng mga bata. Binuo po namin yung Access Mindanao program. The Access Mindanao program or project was a partnership between the university and private sector to provide satellite technology to GIDA areas. And during the pandemic, we were able to establish 12 satellite areas from Dinagat Islands down to Tawi-Tawi. Meron po tayong 12 sites doon. And to ensure na yung ating provide na opportunity for connectivity, we also worked with the different NGOs in the area for community preparations. So, kanina po, na-mention na yung SDGs by our first speaker. So, inclusive business models and the SDGs. Okay, ito po mga pwedeng gawin. Data as a development compass. Maganda pong makaisip ng kung ano-ano, pero maganda din pong nakaangkla sa data, sa information. Use community-level data to identify investment gaps, market opportunities, and areas needing social interventions. Example, mapping youth unemployment or agricultural productivity in the BARM. This has been provided already by the speaker before me. So may mga data na po na naipipresent. Another inclusive business model is employing conflict-affected populations, supporting local entrepreneurs, integrating environmental and social responsibility. Case examples, microfinance for women entrepreneurs, halal food value chains, and digital platforms for local MSMEs. So yung mga technology savvy po, pwede nating explore ito. And by doing this, or exploring these possibilities, we are already aligned with 3 SDGs. SDG 8, SDG 16, and SDG 17. Ibig sabihin po, yung pinopoint out kanina, na baka hindi natin abutin yung target by 2030, if we all work together on this programs and activities, at least matutuhog po natin yung number 8, number 16, at number 17. And evidence-driven action and inclusive innovation create shared value for communities, businesses, and peace. So our call to action, private sector, we are encouraged to invest with purpose, partner with universities and communities, and integrate conflict-sensitive strategies. For higher education institutions, continue to research, to innovate, and provide community engagement to support inclusive development. And I'd like to end with this. As I was preparing the presentation, I came to this mini synthesis of my presentation. Peace, prosperity, and progress in BARM are not abstract goals. They are achievable when business, knowledge, institutions, and communities work together. So tayong lahat po yan, hindi lang po ang BARM, but lahat po ng nandito, we are encouraged to look into this not as abstract goals, but something that we can achieve. And as a team advocate, na mention kanina during the introduction, we just visualize this. Paano ba natin ito magagawa? What would be our contribution? And ultimately, with the power of visioning, we will be able to achieve this as one BARM and as one nation. Magandang umaga po at maraming salamat.
Thank you, Mr. Samante. To proceed with our fourth speaker, he is the Operations Officer of Mahintana Foundation, Incorporated, with over a decade of experience in governance, sustainability, and community empowerment through multi-sector partnerships across Mindanao. A licensed environmental planner and JICA scholar, he holds a master's in tropical risk management and additional training in food and agribusiness value chains from Massey University, New Zealand. Help me welcome our fourth speaker on youth, women, and economic empowerment, Mr. 𝗿𝗶 𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗠𝗠. A warm round of applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mapia maudto. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. My courtesies to our VIPs and dignitaries in this event. And thank you so much for inviting us to participate in this summit. This is the second time that we are here, and we're happy to be part of this activity, particularly here in Cotabato City. And of course, to further, to somehow set in the context, no, kung saan ako manggagaling sa presentation, allow me to present a video of what we're doing. Enjoy the food, at least munood muna tang movie. Yun nga lang, kami po yung bida at saka yung communities na tinutulungan po natin. At salamat dahil maliit po yung, yung roster natin. Magaling talaga ang BPDA, no? Planning and development. Kasya talaga sa speakers na katulad ko. Please, roll the video, please. Thank you.
On August 12, 1977, the executives from Dole Philippines Incorporated organized Mahintana Foundation Incorporated as partner in implementing community development programs in Mindanao. Mahintana was under the supervision of the company until 1993, when it spun off to give more room for development and lead in implementing community development programs in Region 12 and adjacent area. Mahintana derived its name from the 𝗿𝗏 terms Mahin, which means sea, and Tana, for land, in honor of the indigenous communities dwelling in the area. It has mobilized funds and received support from various development funding agencies as its programs and projects expand. In the fulfillment of its vision and mission, Mahintana implements its projects guided by its 4 major programs.
We're able to develop our partnership networks with the different stakeholders and partners and the different municipalities where we are operating in the province, in the region, and the national networks. So we are actively participating in the development agenda, being a member of the different local special bodies, Municipal Development Council, Provincial Development Council, and Regional Development Council.
It promotes sustainable environmental conservation and protection measures towards reducing socioeconomic vulnerabilities to disaster, adaptation to climate change, and developing resilient communities. The foundation also complements the healthcare services provided by the local government units to its assisted communities. It extends education assistance through training, infrastructure, and facility support for identified public learning institutions. To improve the socio-economic condition of its target communities, Mahintana implements livelihood enhancement and enterprise development programs through the effective utilization and management of indigenous resources and continuous engagement in revenue-generating initiatives.
Since I took office last July 1, 2022, naramdaman na talaga yung tulong ng Mahintana Foundation sa lungsod ng Pulo-Manok. I'm very thankful to Mahintana Foundation, of course, the Dole Philippines, consistently supporting local government of Pulo-Manok. And of course, all Pulo-Manokeños will enjoy. And so once again, thank you, Mahintana Foundation and Dole Philippines.
Mahintana also strengthens its partner organizations local government units and agencies through capability enhancement by providing assistance through trainings, learning visits, program and project development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. It enhances the capacities of its partners on organizational development and utilizes information technology systems for mapping, data management, and analysis. In pursuing its development agenda, Mahinkana builds strong partnership with other development players, resource organizations, and government institutions. The foundation is actively governed by the Board of Trustees and managed by professional staff with different fields of training, exposure, and expertise, working together to implement all these development interventions with utmost integrity and commitment of building resiliency and sustaining development.
Ayan, sana nakapag-break po kayo while nanonood po ng aming video presentation. Next, please. Do I click this? Ayan. So aligning po doon sa ating title, no, I was asked to present about youth and women in economic empowerment. So ito po yun, na-explain po kanina, no, we're trying to align kung ano yung experience namin pag sinasabi pong Human Development Peace Nexus. And we all agree na ito yun, no, yung working with the communities, reducing their vulnerabilities, especially those who are in conflict-affected areas or in these fragile communities, and then eventually leading them towards sustainable development na kahit wala man tayo, magpapatuloy pa rin sila doon at saka hindi babalik kung saan sila nanggaling before, but they continue to move forward in their daily livings nila doon sa area. And then just to somehow summarize, there's so many examples, and thank you UNDP for that. But to put it in a way that I'll be able to share this also with the younger generations. Yun, no, ang importante doon sa HDP is we work together. Tapos, yung makipag-partner talaga sa mga stakeholders in the area. And when you say you work together, you work together in smart ways. So meaning, pwedeng mag-usap, no? Mag-usap-usap. So wala yung barriers sana. So we try to get rid of these barriers, this bureaucracy, to really capture kung ano yung need ng mga communities natin. And then, pag sinabing ask the neighbors. So of course, in an area, may mga leaders talaga tayo. So sometimes, being us, coming into the development work, we have to consult and ask them and engage them at the same time. And yun, no, we cannot solve it overnight, yung mga concerns natin sa mga fragile communities natin. So we make peace little by little. No? Kung ano yung kaya natin i-solve for the moment with the resources that we have and the support that we have, so we do that. No? So eventually, we go better over time. We progress over time. And huwag kalimutan yung mga kababaihan. No? Because there's really a strong study, and even us experiencing it, na they are really very good, not only negotiators, but they are very important factors in the community. Even beyond the project timelines, pag na-engage sila, talaga nagpapatuloy. Siguro yun yung dahilan bakit tinawag silang ilaw ng tahanan. And there's a truth to it. Okay? Sige, next. I'm just showing these slides, no? Kung ano yung mga, ano natin. Sorry, a bit back please, napindot. Ayan. And talking about BARM, this is a neighboring region. You know, with the assessment study conducted by BYC, thank you for this, there was 1,000 respondents that were engaged on this. So makita natin, when we talk about youth, of course, there are challenges and there are recommendations. And we cannot discount this kasi they represent, this assessment represents the voice of the youth in this area. So kung tingnan natin, there's really an economic need. Not only economic need, isang line yun nandyan, pero kung tingnan natin, there are other things, no, that needs to be addressed. Okay. Next, please. Sorry. Ako pala. Yan. And para magkaroon tayo ng idea, when we say youth empowerment, iba-iba din kasi. Kaya minsan kami, as implementers in the ground, we also look at the context. Because in BARM, ang youth natin pala dito ay hanggang 40 years old pala, no? Based on the definition that was given for the region. Okay? And then for the women, ito yon, yung strong role talaga ng women natin in terms of community development. And then allow me to share 3 cases wherein we can really look at how we were able to somehow, we were not saying that this is perfect, but somehow we're able to help empower and transform the lives of these people living in these fragile communities due to privacy because we work with some rescued friends. So allow me to share 3 cases. So the first case is about 3 brothers. These are youth aged 18, 16, and 13 who lost their parents. And then eventually they have to find means to work. So kasi nga masyadong kakarampot ang kita to sustain the family. So nagkaroon ng chance to be influenced by these harmful groups in exchange of money coming from abroad, no? Financing for this some engagement that I would say na, or we would all consider leaning on the negative side of the spectrum. Okay? So kaya because of those kind of situations, and I believe it's not only them who have this kind of situation, other youths probably are experiencing this kind of situation, this kind of hardship that really makes them vulnerable to this kind of engagements. Okay, next case. Ayaw mag-next. Next please, ayan. Next case is, of course, in fragile communities where conflict happens, there are these affected women when the breadwinner of the family, usually the husband, dies. So widows are left with their children. And in this particular case, most of them, the women here are left with no skills and even some capital to start up a business to provide for the family. So this is a case of our widows with at least with 11 children, and some of them have similar cases as well in the community. And then last case is we have this collective 43 Moro women. These are wives of our rescued friends who were struggling to make a living because their communities was really identified and tagged as, let's call it as a terrorist community. So talagang hindi talaga mapasukan ever since. And kahit anong gawin, kahit sinimento na ng LG yung daan, talagang mahirap. And that only proves that beyond infrastructures, there are human infrastructures that needs to be addressed. No? And that's why, yun. And yung hanap buhay sana nila na farming, kahit isolated sila, this is worsened by extreme climate conditions. No? Drought for several months, and then heavy rains again for several very, very extreme. Okay? So what do we do in Mahintana together with the private sectors? So we follow this peace and development framework based on our programs and the available programs and partnerships that are available around us. So we look at peace and development as the center of our engagement. And then with our programs that was presented earlier, we look at all the services that the community usually ask for. Basic social services, CapDev, institutional support, environmental support, infra support, economic, agriculture, and livelihood support, wherein we try to not only partner with the private sector, but put them in the table for discussion. So it's very important. One lesson is do not only engage private sector when there is funding needed. It's also important to get their insights as well. And maybe by that, then you're able to really solve or help address kung mga concerns natin sa area. And outside the circle, we have our key actors, which is the civil society organizations, the private or business sectors, and the government. Now, so this is how we do things when we work in fragile, especially when we work in fragile communities. And then yun, so what happened when we did this kind of engagements? Yung iba nasa videos kanina, but of course, we have to make it short. So case 1, for the youths in conflict, of course we start, it's relationship building is very important. Trust building is very important as there are traumas on the ground. So we have to conduct yung mga needs assessment natin, or we call it yung learning conversation. Now this is funded by our various stakeholders, including our GSER-funded program. And of course, we have to bridge local governance and the community. Naka-tri people approach po kami because we have Moros, we have indigenous cultural communities, and Christians and settlers. And hindi po pwedeng yung problema po ng isang community, kahit Moro po yung mga involved, hindi po pwede na sila-sila lang yun. No, there's always a power when we are together. So kaya yun yung pinag-uusapan. So we try to bridge kasi yung iba may mga hinanakit sa government, yung iba probably may hinanakit sa mga security forces, and we have to address that. No, development, especially yung mga infra natin, economic access natin, mahirap yun pag hindi po yun nasusolve. No? Eventually, nung nagkaroon ng programs na ganito, nagkaroon po ng part po doon yung mga peace building activities natin and needs assessment really looking at, that's why I agree that SDG 16 and SDG 17 is linked to other SDGs. So with that, nagkaroon tayo ng, eventually they surrendered to the authorities and then pumasok yung economic access and empowerment from family visioning and finance session, accessing to skills development and other job support and livelihood support, and then post-program status. So some of them were employed, some of them intentionally organized themselves as youth org for them to reach out other youth who are in the same situation. Okay? And then second case, similar case naman, ito naman is more on healing. So may psychological first aid support tayo. We have to do listening and taking the cases seriously with our social workers on the ground. And then we need to do community healing and resilience, community healing and reconciliation activities. And then eventually they said they carried on from the incidents, no? Trying to calm the heart. Okay? And then kaya pumasok din yung mga livelihood natin na support that eventually lead them to having the store. Nagbukas po siya ng enterprise nila. And then nagkaroon po tayo ng mga financial management skills na eventually napadala po nila yung mga bata nila sa paaralan. And then lastly, yung last natin na case naman, after all those things, so nagkaroon tayo ng visioning kasi sometimes kailangan lang talaga natin tingnan kung ano yung, or pakinggan kung ano yung mga gusto din nila mangyari on their community. So it's not a prescription, it has to be bottoms up. Kailangan sila talaga din intentionally magsabi kung ano yung gusto nila, may anong pananaw nila sa mga pamumuhay na at sa kapaligiran nila. Kaya pumapasok yung livelihood support, then eventually nagkaroon ng mga officers sa People's Council, nagkaroon ng mga micro-businesses, naging awardee ng mga funding. At the same time, nagkakaroon sila ng outreach program. So before I end my presentation, just to highlight, if you notice, yung mga naka-color blue sa taas, hindi po mapasok agad ang economic empowerment. Una muna is the human infrastructure. Tinitingnan muna natin, trying to do that, improve their capacity, try to mediate, try to heal, no muna. Kasi hindi talaga mag-uusap-usap at hindi magkakaroon ng magandang economic development ng area kung may mga sakit po ang ating puso at kaluluwa. Okay? Kaya, yung isa na pansin din namin, nagiging effective yung economic interventions kapag ang mga organization na ay kusang nagbuo at the same time din meron silang higher level of purpose. Kaya yung tawag namin sa kanila hindi lang enterprise, they are a social enterprise because they have a mission in the community beyond accessing and having these livelihoods and jobs. Not only for the family dahil they have a sense of purpose in the community. Sige po. So, with that, very important. Siguro yung challenges lang, yung value chain, kasi usually it's just a buy and sell sa community, but there's a very strong call for learning, for community to be taught on what is the basics of a value chain beyond buy and sell. Dapat hindi forcefully organize yung group. It should be naturally and innate to them and intentional yung pagbuo nila. Tapos, ito yung mga challenges when development partners come and go. But of course, yung lessons natin always accompany the peace building and the conflict and mediation, reconciliation with a livelihood support, short term, para may pangkain sila while doing the advocacy at the same time. And purpose beyond profit, may pay it forward mechanism yung mga communities natin para kung mawala man tayo yung intervention or project on the ground, patuloy po ang advokasya po para sa kapayapaan at the same time, napapanatili po na mapakain po natin yung mga tao sa paligid natin at saka yung last naman ay balance ng support to victims and surrenderies, no? Kasi usually yung nakakalimutan minsan nagiging one-sided. So ito yung po mga lessons po na we carry it forward from here and yung mga opportunities for regional learning, we are talking about not only BARM, we're talking about Bangsamoro communities and this is the home of the Bangsamoro people. So may mga Bangsamoro communities po tayo outside BARM and I believe hindi lang po yun po yung cases. No? Whether kung ano man yung background natin, it's more important to look at the cases so that we're able to attain yung sustainable development po natin natawag and leveraging also yung digital capability in this modern world. So, ayun po, beyond infrastructure, consider the human infrastructure because people is our greatest asset. Yun lang po, magandang umaga po. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat and syukran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blanker. For our fifth topic, our fifth speaker is a multi-awarded Filipino social innovator and environmentalist from Sultan Kudarat, recognized globally as an Earthshot Prize nominee awarded by DTI Asia CEO Awards, the Outstanding Young Man of the Philippines, Most Inspiring MSME in 2023, and the Royal Academy of Engineering for Leadership in Sustainable Innovation and Social Entrepreneurship. Help me welcome to deliver us the topic on inclusive business models, bridging profit and purpose in post-conflict economies, the founder and CEO of 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗃, Mr. Mark Sultan Gersava.
So isang napakagandang pananghalian, okay, sa inyong lahat. So I'm wearing two hats today. So basically, I'm part also, because before I became part of the executive cabinet member in the NIC, I have also a business, an inclusive business, basically focusing on post-conflict economies. Just to give you an overview of how we started, so I've been a volunteer here in BARM for almost since 2007. And in 2016, nag-volunteer ako sa 2013, nag-start ako ng training in Sulu with the young leaders. But in 2016, that's basically my breakthrough because dati isa lamang akong ordinaryong empleyado. And when in 2016, supposedly during the declaration of the martial law in Sulu, is pumasok kami in Sulu. And then what happened was, muntik na kaming madali doon sa, they called it the greatest war of Sulu. There were around 21 soldiers died during that time kasi kung saan nanggaling yung kung saan nangyari yung encounter, doon po kami. Dumaan kami doon, just a minute. Okay, just around 1 minute, dumaan kami doon sa area na yon. And that experience has basically brought me to really on how we can really address, because we trained a lot of young people in Sulu since 2013, but ang nangyayari is umaalis sila doon sa lugar. And there is one person, nasabi niya kasi, they left it's because they're tired already of what is really happening. So which is me personally, I also experienced it during my childhood ko. Sabi ko nga, 20 years po ako na I've been living in as internally displaced person for almost 20 years around OP Libak in Sultan Kudarat. So which is, during the time there is that urge to me on how, kung paano ba natin solusyonan yung problema na to. On how we can really, cause one of the observation na natingnan namin in Sulu is really very lack of economic opportunities. So we start, the vision of my company, 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗃, was established in Sulu. And to my personal experience as based on my personal experience, so that's why we started it with 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗃, okay, way back in 2017, and we conceptualized we conceptualize on how we can really integrate a good brand, okay, in terms of addressing this. And in 2018, bumalik po ulit ako in Sulu, but sadly, na-ambush kami during that time. And after that is hindi na ako pinabalik. So we started a company, I looked for a community nearby Manila, so which is we found the Karanglan 𝗦𝗂𝒽𝒽. So which is very high also in insurgency. When we entered that area is sobrang ibang level yung presence of the New People's Army. But during the time nagsisimula na po sila na mag-surrender. So that's why we started in that community. And we are addressing some of our beneficiaries is basically mixed. So we have the victims of conflict and the former rebels, or yung sa mga dating NPA. So some of our, just to give you an overview on how really inclusive business, it's because kaya nga 'di ba hindi tayo makausad bilang isang bansa, it's because napakarampant pa ng capitalism na nangyayari sa atin. And when we talk about post-conflict reintegration, so one thing is 'di ba we have the 𝗃𝗃 framework, but we found out that one of the major or one of the first step that need on the post-conflict is basically the economic reintegration. Because sometimes most of the NGOs, they do it as first is capacity building muna. I've been, ang daming capacity building that I attended, but hindi siya naging effective to me. It's because gutom ako. So it should be started with economic reintegration. Pag surrender, dapat may nakahanda na. May naka-ready na dapat na trabaho. Okay, so we found out, okay, I think this is really an effective tool. So yung mga dating mga FRs there is binigyan agad namin ng trabaho together with their, so parang we combined it with their victims. Because it takes a lot of, there is this thing, especially for the new people, mga dating New People's Army, they have this different mindset. So sinabayan namin with the economic reintegration, binigyan ng trabaho, we partner with the private sector before we introduce the capacity building or the behavioral change. So in this model, so ang ginawa namin is we build first the financial stability through sustainable livelihood and green jobs that empower conflict-affected individuals. And the next one, for our impact formula, because as we said, peace begins on your own plate, di ba? So kung gutom ka, mainit yung ulo mo. Pag busog ka, di ba, mas masaya. So here, and community, after the economic integration, so we have this, because it's a journey, we have the community ownership. In Bambuhay, after 5 to 10 years, that our personnel engaged with us or employed with us, we provide them an equity share in the company. Because why we started with the livelihood, with the employment, it's because they have still lack of knowledge. Kulang pa. So we really need on the journey, in around 5 to 10 years, because kailangan muna nila magkaroon ng skills on how to really become part of the board. Okay, wag biglain ba? Kumbaga, hindi namin sila binigla na, okay, andito tayo, community ownership ka agad, may share kayo ka agad. Because it's so critical. Because basically, hindi pa nila alam kung ano yung pinaka-baseline. And here, because we have our supplier, in this, after 5 to 10 years, so basically, we grant them a certain percentage. And one of the best model that been existing for how many years, you can search Mondragon in Spain. So they are a cooperative na kung saan they are the largest supplier of appliances in Europe, but that company was owned by all its people. Lahat ng empleyado. Like, I'm so very, like their model, like the difference in between their CEO and then yung janitorial services nila, in terms of salary, it's just around 20% difference. Sa atin dito, sobrang thousands of percents ang difference. But in Bambuhay, what we did, because most of these people that we are serving, basically they don't have a formal education. But hindi namin sila pinasimula ng minimum wage. We go beyond, even though we have 10 employees na hindi talaga marunong magbasa at magsulat, but we're able to provide them a platform where they can showcase their skills. Where they can showcase their skills, kung ano man yung mga skills nila na natutunan doon sa bundok, to bring it back, to integrate it in the business. So this is one of the model that we offer to them. It's because in restoring dignity, okay, we really need to granting the ownership so that it will be equalized. Okay, mabigyan natin ng oportunidad kasi 'di ba sa atin what's really happening with the existing business that we have is only the founders getting rich. Okay, so which is wala namang we just need to we just need to be more cautious in terms on how to introduce this inclusive business. Because inclusive business, it really involves a community ownership. And the last one is basically social entrepreneurship with our supply chain. So with one of our project, now since we are in the bamboo industry, so what we did is, the community, we have a community, you can search in Facebook from war zone to green zone. So we transformed that community from a war zone to green zone. Because basically wala naman silang mga lupa. Okay, so how they can reintegrate. So ang ginawa nila is we partner with the indigenous people community. Though they are part also of the indigenous people community, and then tinulungan namin sila to establish the supply chain. So for 3 years, ang ginawa namin, they established around 170 hectares of bamboo plantation, but ang ginawa namin doon is we provide a salary for 3 years until such time na ready for harvest na yung kawayan. After na matapos na yung, pag ready to harvest na yung mga bamboo, that's the time that they can sell the supply to us, the raw materials, then tumigil na yung pagbigay namin ng salary. Because they need to survive. Okay, with this. Now, since we engage into this bamboo industry, so we look for a partner, a private sector partner also, to finance this sector. So, right now, we already established their enterprise. Okay, so their supply chain is, they are already independent before. Sa supply chain, pinapakialaman pa namin yun. But now, is hindi na. Sila na mismo nagpapatakbo ng kanilang raw materials. So we create entrepreneurship model to them. And the lastly is basically the peace innovation. Or we undergo them into what we call the Peace Incubation Program, or Peace Entrepreneurship and Community Enhancement Program, where these young people, an exclusive social entrepreneurship incubation for former rebels and indigenous people entrepreneurs. So in this model is basically the program, we really focus on integrating social entrepreneurship, na sabi ko, because they are fighting against poverty. Then kayo mismo, now since you are fighting when you are still a rebel, then now it's time for you to showcase on how you can address poverty in a proper way. Okay? Not by means of insurgency. So we integrate this program to strengthen their entrepreneurial skills. So we have a lot of entrepreneurship mentorship program, community programs, business strategies, learning sessions, and life coaching, where we integrate social inclusion, emotional inclusion, intellectual inclusion, and comprehensive inclusion, and spiritual inclusion. So it's a complete package of intervention. And the lastly is basically the peace innovation, where innovation starts. So the community it's some like a new lens for peace, a peace-centered technological and innovative-driven approach in sustaining positive peace to create a culture of peace in the community. And what is really Bambuhay innovation? Why we use social and peace innovation along the platform? Panoorin natin. So it is a development and implementation of creative, groundbreaking, and effective strategies, initiative, technologies, and approaches fostering peace, preventing conflicts, and promoting positive social change. So it involves leveraging innovative thinking and tools to address complex social, political, and cultural issues, and encompasses a wide range of effort from technological advancement to novel approaches in diplomacy, education, and community engagement. Let's watch this. Pwedeng pakiplay the video. That one. Okay, I think hindi siya. Okay, hindi yata na-upload. So basically, one of our, sabi nga nila kanina, that innovation is not that complex. So what here, our innovation is basically, we called it the first plantable toothbrush. So it's a toothbrush, okay, that you can use. So when we talk about innovation, sabi nga, hindi talaga siya napaka-super high-tech. Mind you, this innovation that I am talking, the plantable toothbrush, dyan po na-impress ang presidente. So that was kaya ako nagkaroon ng appointed. That's the two innovation that we introduced to the community. Because in the Philippines, we are the plastic, plastic polluter. We are one of the biggest plastic polluters. So it's a complete package of what we are doing in our business. So within this intervention for almost 5 years, so we're able to help 83 families uplifted out of poverty, 71 families out of poverty. So we're able to eliminate around 1,131 metric tons of plastics eliminated. So yung mga former rebels and victims of conflict, may mga nakapagpatayo ng bahay after 2 years engaging with us, purchase a lot of equipment. So this is how inclusive should look like. That kung titingnan natin, it's a complete package. It's not just providing sustainable livelihood, but it's a whole isa siyang buong framework. Isa siyang buong framework where we can integrate those different type of reintegration that we needed. So here in Bambuhay, so this is the brand. Because we want to integrate what is really the brand look like. Because Bambuhay, that came from the word bamboo, hanap buhay, or livelihood. Ayan, sige.
This Filipino is solving one of the world's biggest problems using only a toothbrush. He's growing more trees, he's using less plastic, and he's helping people in extreme poverty. But before I tell you exactly how he does it, I have to tell you about the problems he's trying to solve. You see, if your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather had used a plastic toothbrush like this, as disgusting as it sounds, you might still be able to use that toothbrush today because it doesn't disappear. Well, luckily for us, back then, plastic toothbrushes didn't exist. But now, we're leaving billions of them behind for future generations, and they end up in places like this. And I've seen this problem myself in the Philippines. I traveled all the way from the north to the south, from the windmills of Ilocos to the pink beaches of Zamboanga. And sadly, I saw trash everywhere I went. But it was on this journey that I met this guy. His name is Mark Sultan, and when he was a kid, he lived in extreme poverty.
I come from a family of farmers who used to survive with $60 a month.
He lived through the problems that many Filipinos go through, and he wanted to fix them.
I noticed that a lot of the trash in my barangay was full of plastic toothbrushes, and it gave me an idea.
And that's when he created Bambuhay, a social enterprise that makes toothbrushes from bamboo that decompose in just 3 months. And inside of every single one of these toothbrushes is a seed. So after 3 months of using it, you can plant it in the ground and grow a tree.
The bristles and packaging can be used as a fertilizer together with the bamboo handle. Now, we've grown thousands of trees throughout the Philippines and helped to solve the plastic toothbrush problem.
And this toothbrush doesn't only help the environment, it also helps the people because they gave hundreds of Filipinos jobs.
We are impacting a lot of farmers, and all of them used to live in extreme poverty, like me.
For example, this woman Annalene has gotten out of poverty and even built this house for her family, all because of bamboo toothbrushes. Think about this. You can help to stop the plastic problem, you can reforest, and you can help reduce extreme poverty, all with something as simple as a toothbrush.
Yes. To end this, so in post-conflict region...
What's up? I've hidden this emoji somewhere in the video. Find it, take a screenshot, and send it to me for a secret motivational message.
So in post-conflict region like MARM, so I think the private sector is not merely an economic engine. So it is an architect of peace. By embracing inclusive business model, we move beyond corporate social responsibility. So we embed purpose directly into our core business strategy. So the story of Bambuhay is basically, it was intentionally designed for profit model to solve society's most urgent conflicts. So I challenge the private sector to go beyond your corporate social responsibility and go to be really a true inclusive business. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. 𝗕𝗏𝗃. And that's it. We are done with the first part of our plenary session. And before we proceed, we will be having a 15-minute health break while we prepare for the next part of this event, the Open Forum. You may take this time for your personal necessities. And for those who are still enjoying their lunch, please feel free to continue. And we will resume shortly. Thank you.